There's news of a Rampage this weekend, but not the kind where you go to a club and fist pump to some bad EDM. I'm talking about Rampage, the security vulnerability which was just discovered and affects most Android devices dating back to 2012. The bug got its name from the fact that it relies on a flaw in Android's memory management subsystem that could allow an attacker to peek at sensitive data or even take control of the device. The underlying idea is pretty simple. Rampage, oh, that's where it came from, writes to one row of memory over and over again in hopes of getting a bit in the next row to flip, a vulnerability inherent to modern forms of very tightly packed memory. However, even though Rampage is making headlines today, the odds of that kind of an attack flipping a bit that could allow for unprivileged access is exceedingly low. You'd actually have a better shot of winning the lottery. Google has developed a remarkably human-sounding AI that you can have a real phone conversation with, at least if you're a restaurant employee. The public got its first look at the new Google Duplex recently, which Google demonstrated as a kind of personal secretary that could make calls on your behalf to set up or cancel appointments and reservations. After asking your Google Assistant to take care of making the call for you, it should, in theory, ring up the restaurant or business in question and make your reservation by talking to whatever carbon-based life form picks up the phone on the other end. Not only can Duplex AI handle questions from the person like if an alternative reservation time is okay, it'll also interject with ums and yas to help the conversation flow more naturally. I think Mark Zuckerberg would be jealous. Your data might be getting a little safer if you're a California resident, as Governor Jerry Brown just signed the California Consumer Privacy Act into law. This is the strictest legal protection of its kind in the US. The upshot is that it makes it much more difficult for businesses to sell consumer information to third parties, as consumers will have the right to ask companies what personal data they have and order them to not sell it. Businesses will also be barred from charging customers additional money to make up for lost revenue from selling the data or from withholding services. As a huge surprise to everyone who had no ability to recognize patterns whatsoever, tech giants like Google, Uber, Microsoft, Verizon, and Amazon all spent money opposing the law's passage, saying that it would hurt their bank account, their innovation. Now it's time for rapid small things brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. If you're looking for an easy-to-use VPN solution that gives you real privacy, then look no further than PIA. They've got servers in 28 countries to help you get around geo-blocking. They've got multiple options for strong encryption that keeps your data out of the hands of snoops. They've got DNS leak protection to make sure that your browsing history remains in your hands alone, and even PIA Mace, a built-in tracker and malware blocker. So for a secure browsing experience that works across a multitude of platforms, check out PIA at the link below. So are you interested in that 32-core AMD Threadripper that showed up at Computex this month? Well, we've finally gotten what might be some pricing information, as German retailer Cyberport has listed the chip at around 1,500 euros, or $1,750 US. Now yes, that is still cheaper than Intel's top-end model, which is only 18 cores, so it looks like AMD's strategy is still to keep undercutting Intel like a salad shooter in a basement kitchen. Get it? Undercutting, oh wow, that's awful. But it'll still be costing you a pretty penny. Speaking of costing a pretty penny, Razer is releasing a new series of keyboards featuring optical switches, which have only recently been seen on keyboards from companies like Bloody and Wu-Ting. The Huntsman keyboard line will have a 1.5mm actuation point, and Razer is touting a longer lifespan than regular mechanical switches, and hoping that the $150 to $200 price tag won't stop gamers from thinking their keyboards are lit. Because optical, Microsoft is bringing back the iconic Intellimouse that was last seen about 15 years ago, but this time with some major changes. It's gonna have a white LED instead of the classic red. and 3200 DPI tracking instead of the old 400. They're hoping that this new Intellimouse will be as popular with gamers as the original, and they're gonna be on sale for 40 bucks if you wanna go check out the link in the video description. I really don't know if 15 years later, the Intellimouse is really gonna hold. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you disagree. Speaking of things to disagree with, you might be seeing esports at the Olympics down the road, as the IOC has announced that they will be putting on an esports forum to help determine if competitive gaming might be suitable for the event. Although collaboration between the IOC and esports could stop short of including actual video game tournaments in the Olympics, but I think the question we should all be asking ourselves is League of Legends really any less worthy than ribbon twirling? Speaking of ribbon twirling, SEG-WHY. Wait, no, hold on. Speaking of terrible segues, SEG-WHY, the other SEG-WHY. Remember those guys? They've popped back onto the scene with a pair of self-balancing electric roller skates that are vaguely reminiscent of the original SEG-WHY's design aesthetic, for better or for worse. Because the Drift W1 skates don't actually contain your feet though, the device is essentially a two-piece hoverboard. Of course, the attractive couple in the cheesy marketing video doesn't have any trouble with them, but I do wonder how many takes they had to go through to get that. Well, that's it for me, so all of y'all have a pleasant Canada Day weekend, even if you live south of the border, and we will see you on, wow, are we gonna skip Monday? I actually don't know.